So I want you to just imagine for a second that you are, you're standing right in the middle of this incredibly crowded room.
Okay.
And the volume of the chatter in there is just absolutely deafening.
Like you can't even hear yourself think.
Exactly. You can't hear a thing. And meanwhile, your phone is just relentlessly vibrating in your pocket.
Oh, the worst feeling.
Right. Just a never-ending stream of alerts and messages and, people demanding your attention.
Yeah.
And you glance down at your digital calendar, and it is packed so tightly there isn't like a single sliver of white space left for the next 3 weeks.
This wall-to-wall obligation.
Wall to wall. You are constantly moving. You're hustling from one thing to the next, surrounded by people, surrounded by responsibilities. It's basically society's standard definition of having momentum, right?
And doing all the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah. But the crazy part is, despite all of this relentless, exhausting motion, you feel entirely hopelessly stuck.
Yeah. That is a very real, very common wall people hit.
It's like you're completely drained. Your finances are this constant source of low-grade anxiety thrumming in the back of your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
And your mental energy is just flatlining. You're doing everything society says you should be doing to succeed, but somehow you end up feeling like a background extra in your own life.
Yeah, just kind of watching it happen to you instead of driving it.
Exactly. Experiencing this strange, suffocating sense of isolation despite the sheer overwhelming noise around you.
It's really one of the most profound paradoxes of modern human existence, I think.
How so?
Well, we are more connected, more scheduled, and just more continuously active than at any point in the history of our species.
Right.
But that exact hyperactivity is often the very mechanism that's keeping us totally stagnant.
Wow, so the movement is the trap.
It is. We're essentially running on a treadmill that's been cranked up to the absolute maximum speed, and we're looking around completely bewildered as to why the scenery isn't changing.
Because we're literally not going anywhere.
Exactly. We confuse movement with progress,
Yeah.
and we confuse noise with importance.
That feeling, that overwhelming exhaustion and stagnation where you're doing everything right but getting nowhere, that is exactly what we are untangling today.
It's a massive topic.
It is. In our session today, we're looking at this really fascinating stack of source materials that tackle the science of solitude.
Which is so crucial.
Yeah, and the hidden architecture of foundational life building.
Yeah.
And the actual mechanics of scaling human impact.
Right.
We're basically looking at how a person transitions from being that overwhelmed background extra to becoming the absolute master architect of their own reality.
Which is an incredible transition to make.
It really is. But to get there, the literature points to a first step that feels honestly incredibly counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive, and for a lot of people, genuinely frightening.
Oh, for sure.
Because the texts argue that the solution to this overwhelming stagnation isn't to just, run faster.
Right. It's not about trying harder.
No, it isn't to find a better app to optimize your calendar or to squeeze another hour of productivity out of your morning routine.
Which is what every self-help guru tells you to do.
Exactly. But to fix this feeling of being trapped in the noise, you actually have to do the exact opposite of what the modern world demands.
Which is?
You have to stop. You have to step entirely away from the crowd, shut the door, and completely embrace the quiet.
Which sounds completely terrifying to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
Because, the instinct when things are falling apart is usually to grip the steering wheel tighter, right?
To micromanage the chaos.
Right. But the texts we're analyzing make a very uncompromising point. They say your mental, physical, and financial health are the bedrock foundation of your existence.
They are the absolute bottom line.
Yeah, and if you ignore those three pillars because you're too busy maintaining some sort of social facade, everything else eventually crumbles.
It has to.
It really doesn't matter how high you try to build your skyscraper. If the concrete at the bottom is cracked and shifting, the whole structure is compromised.
The higher you build, the harder it falls.
Exactly. And to even begin assessing where those cracks are in your own life, you require a state of intentional solitude.
And the researchers make a really vital distinction here that we need to unpack.
Okay, what's that?
It's the difference between loneliness and positive solitude.
Because people definitely confuse those two.
Oh, society tends to lump them together completely.
Yeah.
We heavily stigmatize any form of being alone.
We really do.
Like, we're conditioned to view a person sitting alone at a restaurant or walking alone in a park as someone who has been rejected by the tribe.
Right, like, oh, that poor person, they have no friends.
Exactly. But loneliness and positive solitude are entirely different psychological, and even biological states.
Interesting. So how do they define loneliness?
Loneliness is a painful, involuntary lack of connection. It operates as a biological alarm bell.
An alarm bell.
Yeah. Just as physical pain warns you that you've touched a hot stove and you're sustaining tissue damage, loneliness warns you that your evolutionary need for social integration just isn't being met.
Oh, wow.
It is involuntary, and it is actively harmful to your system.
So it's basically a starvation response. Your body is screaming at you that you're isolated from the safety of the group.
Exactly that. Positive solitude, however, is an intentional, chosen separation.
Okay.
It's a psychological space you step into deliberately to foster autonomy, self-reflection, and authenticity.
So you're not being picked out.
No, you aren't being excluded by the tribe. You are temporarily excusing yourself to recalibrate.
It's the difference between being locked in a room against your will versus choosing to walk into a room and locking the door yourself so you can finally think clearly.
That is a perfect way to visualize it.
Thanks.
And because modern culture has so heavily stigmatized being alone, psychologists are actually seeing the rise of a newly researched state.
Oh, really? What's it called?
It's called aloneness.
A loneliness. Like loneliness, but wanting to be alone.
Exactly. It's a condition where a person is highly stressed, irritable, and chronically exhausted, specifically because they are starving for time alone.
But they can't get it.
Right. They feel they cannot get it due to societal, professional, or familial pressures.
Like they're always on call.
Yeah, they feel guilty for wanting to close the door. So they remain constantly available, fundamentally deprived of the cognitive space required to process their own lives.
That makes so much sense, and it perfectly aligns with how our technology operates, honestly.
How so?
Well, think about a smartphone running 50 background apps all at once.
Oh, yeah. A nightmare.
Right. You have location services pinging a satellite. You've got social media apps constantly refreshing their feeds, emails downloading large attachments, and Bluetooth scanning for devices.
Just burning through power.
Exactly.
Wow.
The battery's draining rapidly, the phone is literally, physically overheating in the palm of your hand, and the screen starts lagging when you try to perform a simple task.
We've all been there.
And the only way to fix it isn't to open another app to manage the other apps.
Right. That just makes it worse.
Yeah. You have to force quit everything and let the processor cool down.
That's a great analogy.
But let me push back on this idea for a second.
Sure.
If I am completely overwhelmed by my failing finances or a chaotic relationship, isn't hiding in a quiet room just a massive act of avoidance?
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, isn't isolating yourself when you're stressed just running away from your problems?
That is the natural fear.
Mm-mm.
But we have to look at the psychology of social expectations to understand why stepping away is actually the prerequisite for solving those problems.
Okay, lay it on me.
When we are around other people, we are subject to a phenomenon known as the spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect.
Yeah, we possess this deeply ingrained evolutionary feeling that everyone is constantly watching us, evaluating us, and judging our every move.
Oh, we all feel that. Like walking into a party late, you feel like 100 pairs of eyes are just burning into your skin.
Yes. And yet, the data shows they almost never are.
Really?
Yeah, the source material references a fascinating major university study that perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, I love studies like this. What did they do?
Researchers had students walk into a crowded room wearing a highly embarrassing t-shirt.
Oh, no. Like, what kind of shirt?
Something quite ridiculous, like a shirt featuring a massive, recognizable baby food stain, or just a deeply uncool pop culture reference.
That sounds mortifying.
Right. And before entering, the students predicted that over half the room would notice the shirt and judge them for it.
Which makes sense. You'd feel so self-conscious.
But in reality, barely anyone noticed. The actual number of observers was a fraction of what the students anticipated.
Wow.
But that internal spotlight effect is so powerful that it forces us to constantly perform. We are constantly curating our behavior, our speech, and our facial expressions for the benefit of the tribe.
So we are spending massive amounts of cognitive energy putting on an exhausting show for an audience that isn't even looking at us.
It is an incredible waste of mental resources.
That's wild.
And when you enter true intentional solitude, you finally shed that social gaze. You are no longer performing. You can drop the mask.
You can just breathe.
Exactly. Furthermore, the sources point to neuroscientific research regarding a specific network in the brain called the default mode network.
The default mode network.
Okay, this is crucial. When you're actively engaged in a task like answering an email, talking to a colleague, or scrolling through a feed, Certain executive parts of your brain are lit up.
Right, you're focused.
But when you step back into unstructured, solitary downtime, when you're just staring out a window or folding laundry in silence or walking in the woods without an audiobook playing, the default mode network takes over.
And what exactly does that network do?
It is the brain's internal filing system and synthesis engine.
Oh, okay.
This network is responsible for self-reflection, for making sense of our past experiences, for consolidating our sense of identity, and for mapping out future scenarios.
So it's basically doing all the deep processing.
Yes, but modern life, with its constant external stimuli, actively suppresses the default mode network.
Because we never just stare out the window anymore.
Exactly. We never give our brains the mandatory downtime required to process who we are and where we're going.
Wow.
So returning to your question about avoidance, you aren't running away from your problems when you seek solitude. You're finally shutting down the exhausting performance centers of your brain and activating the specific neural architecture required to actually solve your problems.
It's a total paradigm shift. I mean, you can't fix a broken machine while it's running at full speed on the factory floor.
Right.
I mean,
You'd lose an arm.
exactly. Solitude is how you pull the plug, turn off the conveyor belt, and open up the casing so you can actually inspect the gears.
That's it, exactly.
But let's move to the next phase of this, because the sources point out a very harsh reality here.
They do.
Once you step into that room, right? Once you force quit the background apps and the room is perfectly, completely quiet, a brand new problem arises.
The noise inside your own head.
Yes, the internal noise.
And that internal noise can be far more vicious than the external noise you just escaped.
Oh, absolutely. It's ruthless.
When people finally get alone and that default mode network kicks in, they're often confronted with deeply ingrained negative thought loops.
Yeah.
In the absence of distraction, an internal monologue starts up. And for many people, it is incredibly hostile.
It really is.
It tells them they aren't smart enough, they don't have the right educational background, they'll never be able to fix their financial cracks, or they simply aren't capable of achieving an extraordinary life.
It just lists all your flaws.
Right. And the texts highlight that repairing your foundation requires confronting this internal operating system directly. You cannot build a new life on top of corrupted software.
It's brutal. You finally carve out a moment of peace, you sit down with a cup of coffee in silence, and your brain just starts listing a highlight reel of every awkward mistake you've made since the 3rd grade.
Yeah, that time you waved at someone who wasn't waving at you.
Yes. It haunts you. But the sources don't just offer empty platitudes like, think positive thoughts.
Thankfully, no.
Right. They provide a very specific mechanical tool to break this cognitive cycle. It's a psychological trick.
Yeah.
The 5-second countdown.
The simplicity of this tool really masks how neurologically effective it is.
Tell me how it works.
The moment you recognize a negative thought loop beginning, the moment you hear that internal voice say, "I'm not disciplined enough to pull this off," you must actively interrupt the pattern.
By doing what?
You literally count down in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait, why counting backwards? Why not just tell yourself to stop?
Because counting backwards requires focus.
Oh, I see.
It's not an automated habit like counting forwards from 1 to 5, which you can do without even thinking.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is basically reflex.
Exactly. By counting down from 5, you force your brain to shift its electrical activity away from the emotional reactive centers, like the amygdala, where fear and anxiety reside, and you reroute it to the logical prefrontal cortex, which handles active decision-making.
So it's basically a manual override.
It operates exactly like a circuit breaker. It snaps the loop. But as the texts warn, you cannot just leave a vacuum.
Why not?
Because a brain will immediately revert to its default anxiety if you just leave it empty. You have to immediately replace that interrupted thought with a positive, actionable truth.
So you have to deliberately overwrite the bad code before the system reboots itself.
Precisely.
And to rewrite that code effectively, the sources argue that you must deeply understand and adopt what they call the 3 laws of belief.
These are fundamental.
Let's really dig into these because they form the absolute foundation of everything that comes next.
Okay, so the first is the law of choice.
A law of choice.
This is the realization that you actively, consciously choose what to believe.
That's tough for people to accept.
It really is. Most people treat their beliefs as if they were genetic traits, like eye color or height.
Right, they say, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm just bad with numbers.
Exactly.
Oh.
But the literature insists that beliefs are not innate. They are software programs installed by your past experiences, your parents, and your environment.
Just conditioning.
Yes. And because they're software, you have the administrative privilege to uninstall and replace them.
That is so empowering, which leads right into the second law, the law of cause and effect.
Right.
Beliefs aren't just invisible, harmless thoughts floating in your skull. They are the invisible blueprints that dictate your real-world actions.
They absolutely are.
And your actions produce your real-world results. Like, if your foundational belief is that you're bad with numbers, you will avoid looking at your bank statement.
You'll just put it off entirely.
Right. And that action avoidance leads to the effect of financial ruin. The belief literally causes the reality.
Which brings us to the third law, the law of repetition.
How do you install the new belief?
Through sustained focus. Thoughts gain their power, their permanence, and their automaticity through repetition.
Practice, basically.
Yeah. A single positive thought is just a spark, but a repeated positive thought becomes a hardened neural pathway.
So using the 5-second countdown to interrupt the bad code and the laws of belief to install new code, what exactly are we supposed to be programming into our minds?
Good question.
The texts outline something called the 3 meta-beliefs. And a meta-belief, as I understand it, is a core assumption about the nature of reality that sits at the very bottom of your operating system, right?
Yes, it governs all your other smaller beliefs.
So if you can install these 3 meta-beliefs, your entire paradigm shifts.
The texts identify these 3 specific meta-beliefs as the absolute non-negotiable requirements for building an extraordinary life.
Okay, let's hear them.
Number 1, everything is possible. Number 2, everything is learnable. And number 3, every problem has a solution.
I love the sheer simplicity of that, especially when paired with a concept the texts introduce, the immense power of the word yet. Oh, that's such a great tool.
It is. When that negative voice sneaks in and says, I am not good at managing a team, you hit it with the 5-second countdown, break the loop, and then you add the word yet.
Right.
I am not good at managing a team yet. It completely changes the sentence from a permanent life sentence to a temporary state of skill acquisition.
It changes everything.
But I have to admit, I'm going to challenge that first meta belief.
Go for it.
Everything is possible. Hearing that out loud, it sounds like a cheesy motivational poster hanging in a corporate break room, you know?
The one with the eagle soaring over the mountain.
Yes. Like, let's be rigorously honest with ourselves here. We can't all be astronauts.
Sure.
We can't all win gold medals at the Olympics. We are bound by genetics, by physics, by the reality of time. Isn't telling people everything is possible actually kind of toxic?
How so?
Doesn't it just set them up for a massive, painful collision with reality when they inevitably fail? That is a highly rational objection. And the source material actually provides a really fascinating layer of nuance on this exact point.
Oh, okay. Let's hear the nuance.
The concept of everything is possible isn't a delusion. It isn't about defying the laws of gravity or altering your physical biology.
Good, because that would be crazy.
Right. It is a highly strategic manipulation of your own subjective reality.
Strategic manipulation, how does that work?
Consider the alternative. If you look at a massive, seemingly impossible goal, let's say building a company from scratch, or completely reversing a massive amount of debt.
Okay.
If your foundational assumption is that it cannot be done, what happens?
You probably don't try very hard.
Exactly. Your subsequent actions will perfectly align with that belief. You will hesitate, you put in half measures, you won't make the difficult phone calls, and you won't take the necessary risks.
Because what's the point, right? You already know it's impossible.
Yes. By assuming impossibility, you guarantee your own failure. The assumption of impossibility is a perfectly executed, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Ah, I see. It's about the sheer utility of the belief, regardless of objective, universal truth.
Precisely that. If instead you adopt the strict, uncompromising assumption that it is possible, you unlock the strategic, creative, problem-solving centers of your prefrontal cortex.
Your brain starts looking for a way.
Yes. You shift from making statements to asking questions. You start asking how instead of declaring, I can't.
That's a huge shift in posture.
And the texts point out a profound historical truth. If another human being on this planet has achieved something, then the framework to learn it exists in the world.
Wow.
There's a famous example in the text of a historic athlete who broke a running record that the medical community had previously declared was physiologically impossible for the human heart to withstand.
Right, they thought his heart would literally explode.
Exactly, but when he finally broke it, he didn't suddenly alter human biology, right?
No, he just ran fast.
He altered the subjective reality of every single runner who came after him. He proved the framework existed. And within a year, dozens of other athletes broke that exact same barrier.
That's incredible.
You adopt the meta-belief that everything is possible, not because it guarantees you will succeed, but because it's the only psychological state that even allows you to attempt the extraordinary in the first place.
That reframing is incredibly powerful. You aren't lying to yourself. You're giving yourself the cognitive permission to try.
Exactly.
So let's look at the journey so far. You've embraced the quiet. You've used the 5-second countdown to stop the negative loops, and you've installed the 3 meta beliefs.
This system is prep.
Right. You fundamentally believe that you can learn whatever you need to learn. Your mindset is primed. But here is the harsh, unavoidable truth of the material.
Which is?
Positive thinking alone doesn't pay your electricity bill.
No, it does not.
Believing you can achieve greatness doesn't inherently build a legacy or repair a broken relationship. To actually repair the foundational cracks we talked about at the beginning, we have to transition from the mind to the physical world.
Time to get to work.
Exactly. It is time to build the architecture of action.
And that architecture begins with a concept that makes a lot of people deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Absolute, uncompromising accountability.
Yes. The sources present a psychological framework called the accountability ladder.
I found this part so challenging.
Most people do. Because most people, when they are overwhelmed, broke, and stuck in the noise, operate at the very bottom rung of this ladder.
Which is unconscious victimhood.
Right.
And victimhood is comfortable, honestly. It's warm. If it's not your fault, you don't have to do the hard work of fixing it.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism. At the bottom rung, people blame the macroeconomic environment. They blame their terrible boss. They blame their parents. They blame the social media algorithm.
Anyone but themselves.
Exactly. But as you force yourself to climb this ladder, you move from making excuses to acknowledging reality to taking responsibility until you reach the very top rung.
Total ownership.
Total ownership. It's the terrifying but liberating realization that your current life, your bank account, your health, your stress levels, is the exact mathematical sum of your past choices.
Man, that is a heavy pill to swallow. To look at your own struggling bank account or your physical exhaustion and look in the mirror and say, I chose this.
It's extremely difficult.
But you're right, it is also deeply liberating.
Right.
Because if your past choices built this current flawed reality, then your new choices can build an entirely new reality.
You have the steering wheel.
You have the steering wheel. And the actual mechanics of steering your life toward that new reality come down to the science of how you set your targets.
This is where it gets very practical.
Yeah. The texts cite a major university study on goal setting that provides staggering empirical evidence for this.
The numbers are wild.
They really are. The researchers tracked different groups of people and found that simply thinking deeply about a goal makes you roughly 10 times more likely to achieve it compared to someone who just drifts through life reacting to whatever happens.
Which makes sense.
But, and this is the critical multiplier, the act of physically writing that goal down makes you 30 times more likely to achieve it.
30 times.
Yeah.
Just from moving the thought from the ether of your brain down your arm and onto a physical piece of paper.
It's magic. What is the mechanism behind that?
It actually engages entirely different neural pathways.
Really?
Yeah, when you write something down, you're utilizing motor skills, spatial memory, and visual processing.
So it's a full brain activity.
Exactly. It forces your brain to clarify the abstract into the concrete. It makes the invisible visible. And the sources suggest taking these written goals and organizing them into a very specific temporal architecture.
Like what?
Daily targets, monthly milestones, and then your broader 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year visions.
That structured timeline is vital because it prevents the paralysis of the massive goal.
Absolutely.
I mean, a 10-year goal to build a massive enterprise is intimidating. A daily target to make 3 phone calls is entirely manageable.
Very manageable.
Let me throw an analogy at this because I think it perfectly visualizes the process the texts are describing.
I love a good analogy. Let's hear it.
Okay. Building an extraordinary life is exactly like building a massive, towering brick wall.
Okay.
When you look at an empty plot of land, you don't try to summon a 50-foot wall out of thin air.
No, you can't.
That's impossible, and trying to conceptualize it will just overwhelm you. What you do is walk up to the starting line, pick up one single brick, and you focus all of your mental and physical energy on laying that one brick as perfectly as a brick can possibly be laid.
Right.
You ensure the mortar is mixed right, the alignment is flawless, and it is perfectly level. Then you step back.
You're done for the day,
Exactly. The next day, you come back and lay another perfect brick.
which is the 1% compounding rule.
Exactly. You aren't trying to change your entire life in a 24-hour period. You are just trying to execute one small task perfectly to be 1% better than you were yesterday.
And if we apply that 1% bricklaying concept to the financial foundation detailed in the texts, the mathematical power of that compounding rule becomes undeniable.
Finance is a huge part of this.
It is. Financial health is one of the 3 core pillars of a stable life, yet it's the one area where people feel most victimized by forces outside their control.
Oh, people feel totally powerless about money.
Completely. The texts note a tragic recurring irony in modern society. Many individuals fiercely claim they are too broke to invest for their future, yet a quick audit of their behavior shows they easily spend thousands of dollars a year on detrimental, unconscious habits.
It's so true.
They buy premium coffee twice a day, they smoke, or they engage in excessive weekend alcohol consumption to cope with the stress of being broke.
The text gave a really striking example of this involving cigarettes, right?
It did. The text calculated the lifetime cost of a daily smoking habit.
And it was an astronomical number.
Massive. But the argument the author is making isn't just about moralizing bad habits or lecturing people about health.
Right. It's not a health PSA.
No, it's a cold, hard, objective look at energy allocation. In this framework, money is simply stored energy.
Stored energy. I like that.
It represents the hours of your life you traded for currency. And if you take that exact same energy, those small, seemingly insignificant daily amounts of money spent on a habit, and you deliberately redirect it utilizing modern financial technology, the results are genuinely staggering.
And it compounds.
Yes. We live in an era where anyone with a smartphone can set up an automated recurring deposit into a simple, low-cost market index fund.
You don't have to be on Wall Street.
You do not need a degree in macroeconomics. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You just need to lay that one financial brick perfectly every single month by automating the transfer.
It's just a habit.
Over a 10, 20, or 30-year timeline, the mathematical reality of compounding interest takes that small redirected energy and radically alters your future reality.
So you fix the foundation. You get your physical health, your mental clarity, and your financial pillars stabilized by taking total accountability and laying your daily 1% bricks.
The cracks are filled.
The cracks are filled. But here is where the source material shifts gears entirely.
It really takes a leap here.
It does. Once your foundation is solid, once your daily habits are locked in and running on autopilot, you eventually hit a plateau.
Right.
You're functioning well, you're healthy, you're no longer drowning in debt, and your mind is clear. But you aren't yet extraordinary.
You're just stable.
Yeah. You have reached the limit of what one human being can do with 24 hours. To cross the massive gap from a highly functional life to an extraordinary life of massive worldly impact, laying one brick at a time is no longer mathematically enough.
It's just too slow.
Right. You have to learn the architecture of scaling.
And this introduces the most dynamic concept in the texts, the multipliers.
The multipliers.
To understand multipliers, we have to return to the foundational premise that energy is the ultimate currency of the universe.
Okay, let's track the energy.
Thoughts are potential energy. Attention is focused energy. Money, as we established, is stored energy. Organizations and companies are structured, collective energy.
Right, it's all just forms of energy.
Yes. If you are operating completely alone, relying only on your own 2 hands, your own intellect, and your own 24 hours in a day, there is a hard mathematical ceiling on what you can achieve.
Because you have to sleep eventually.
You cannot work 25 hours a day.
Mm.
So to create massive impact, to solve large problems or change the world at scale, you must utilize what the texts call multipliers to amplify your individual energy exponentially.
The texts break down 8 specific multipliers, and I want to look at them not as a list, but as an interconnected machine.
That's the best way to view it.
Because the first cluster of multipliers happens entirely inside of you. You start with thoughts, and the texts are clear. This doesn't just mean having happy thoughts. It means analyzing the sheer size and intensity of your vision. You have to actively discard the excellent to pursue the extraordinary.
If your thoughts are small, your impact is small.
Exactly. Then comes reasoning. This is your ability to strip away your ego, your biases, and your wishful thinking to see reality exactly as it is.
Which is incredibly rare.
So rare. And tying the internal engine together is personal growth. This is a brutal truth. You are always the primary bottleneck of your own life.
Ouch.
Right. If your impact isn't growing, if your business is stalling, it is fundamentally because your skills have stopped growing.
And once the internal engine is optimized, you begin applying the external multipliers.
Okay, what are those?
You apply focus. In a modern world defined by infinite distraction and fragmented attention, the ability to canalize your energy into a single sustained direction for years until you reach a tipping point is a massive, almost unfair competitive advantage.
Because nobody else can focus for more than 5 minutes.
Exactly. Then you introduce technology. Technology is arguably the most accessible lever in human history. It acts as automated energy.
How so?
Well, a piece of code, a software automation, or a well-designed system allows you to effectively clone your time. You build the system once, and it works for you while you sleep.
It's an invisible worker. And that leads to the multiplier that I think causes the most friction for people reading this. Using others' time and energy.
Yes, this one is controversial.
It is. This is the ability to build teams, hire experts, and delegate tasks. But let me stop you right there because I know what people are thinking.
I know what you're going to say.
Using others' time and energy sounds cold.
It does.
It sounds a bit manipulative, like we are just treating human beings as disposable batteries to power our own personal ambitions.
That is a very common, very understandable hesitation. No one wants to view themselves as an exploiter of human labor.
Right, that's not the goal here.
But the texts address this ethical hesitation directly by exploring the psychological principles of human behavior and leadership.
Okay, how do they justify it?
The first principle to understand is that, universally, incentives rule the world.
Makes sense.
The second is understanding the profound difference between a leader acting out of fear versus a leader acting out of love.
Break that dichotomy down for me. How does love versus fear apply to building a corporate team?
Okay, so when you act out of fear, you operate from a deeply ingrained mindset of scarcity. You view the world as a zero-sum game, believing there is a limited amount of success to go around.
Like there's only one pie.
Right. And in that paradigm, for you to win, someone else must mathematically lose. In that mindset, using others' time is manipulative because you're trying to extract maximum energy from them for minimum reward to serve your own selfish gain. You're hoarding the pie.
So that's the toxic boss scenario.
Exactly. But when you act out of love, which the text define in an organizational sense as a mindset of abundance and giving, you aren't extracting.
What are you doing instead?
You're creating a vision of the future that is so compelling, so massive, and so extraordinary that it naturally attracts people who want to be a part of it. By aligning incentives, paying them well, giving them autonomy, offering them equity, you provide others with a platform to utilize their own skills and reach their own potential.
So you aren't hoarding the pie, you're sharing it.
Yes, and by collaborating, you make the overall pie exponentially bigger. You aren't using people as batteries. You're harmonizing diverse energies toward a shared, magnificent goal that none of you could achieve alone.
That is a brilliant and necessary distinction. It's the difference between a dictator extracting forced labor and a visionary leader conducting a symphony orchestra.
I love that image.
Because everyone is playing their own instrument, but together they make a sound that no single musician could make alone.
Exactly. And once you have that team harmonized, you apply the final two multiplier.
You'll hear them.
You apply money. Not as a status symbol, but as velocity. At scale, money is about the speed of reinvestment. It's how quickly you could deploy capital to buy back your time, hire better experts, or reach more people.
It's fuel for the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
And finally, knowledge. Leveraging the centuries of human progress so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Which saves so much time.
So much time. You can read a dense, researched book over a weekend, and in a few hours, you successfully download decades of someone else's agonizing trial, error, and hard-won wisdom directly into your own brain.
It's like a software update.
It really is. And when you combine all of these multipliers, when you possess the massive thoughts, the deep focus, the leveraging of technology, the deployed capital, and an aligned, highly incentivized team, your individual single human energy is magnified thousands of times over. You completely bypass the 24-hour limit. That is how you shift from ordinary functioning to extraordinary historical impact.
Okay, so let's look at the reality of operating at that level.
Okay.
What does this all mean in practice? You've built the solid foundation, you've launched the multipliers, you are leading teams, influencing the world, and moving at absolute light speed.
Sounds exhausting, honestly.
It is. And to sustain this without losing your mind, without burning out completely and crashing back down to the bottom of the accountability ladder in a heap of exhaustion, we have to return to the very concept we started with.
We come full circle.
We do. We have to look at the lunar and solar balance of life.
This is perhaps the most profound, overarching synthesis of all the source material we've explored today.
It's beautiful.
It really is. The text argued that the highest form of human potential is not found by staying isolated as a hermit on a mountaintop, completely disconnected from the struggles of the world.
No, that's just hiding.
Exactly. Nor is it found by losing your individual identity in the chaotic, buzzing, hyper-connected crowd.
So what is it?
The extraordinary life is a continuous, harmonious, unceasing loop between those two states.
It's a breathing process, inhaling the quiet and exhaling the impact.
That is a beautiful way to phrase it. The texts explore the deep biological and psychological symbiosis between social time and solo time.
Okay, tell me about the solar and lunar concepts.
Think of your social interactions, leading a team, attending a conference, being with your family, as solar energy.
Okay, bright and warm.
Yes, it's warm, dynamic, and outwardly focused. It sustains life. But you cannot endure the intense midday sun forever without burning to a crisp.
I'll just fry.
You will. Solitude, then, is the lunar energy. It is cooling, reflective, dark, and restorative. Solitude is actually the mandatory prerequisite for genuine, authentic connection with others.
I think that's the key right there. Because if you don't know who you are when you're completely alone, you're just a chameleon when you're with a group.
Oh, it's hard.
You're just absorbing their anxiety, mirroring their opinions, and echoing their noise. You bring nothing original to the table.
Correct. By resting in positive solitude, activating that default mode network we talked about, and discovering our authentic selves, we strip away the exhausting performance of the spotlight effect.
We take the mask off.
We process our internal anxieties. And when we finally return to our social circles, we don't return as needy individuals looking to extract validation or energy from others to prop up our fragile egos.
Because we're already full.
Exactly. We return as whole, grounded, empathetic contributors. We have processed our own emotional baggage in the quiet, so we don't project it onto our employees, our partners, or our children.
And the texts give us incredible nuances on how to actually practice this solitude, because it doesn't always mean locking yourself in a dark room or a sensory deprivation tank.
No, not at all.
They outline different environments that trigger this restorative state. There is public solitude, which is a concept I love.
That's a great one.
It's that feeling of taking your laptop or a book to a bustling, crowded coffee shop in a city where absolutely no one knows your name.
Yeah, just blending in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by the hum of humanity, but you are completely anonymous. You are physically present, but entirely free from the spotlight effect.
It's very freeing.
Then there is companionate solitude. This is profound for anyone in a long-term relationship or with a family. It's the ability to be alone together.
Parallel play for adults.
Yes. You're sitting in the living room reading a novel, and your partner is across the room working on a puzzle or painting. You share the warmth of the physical space, but you grant each other the psychological permission to be totally inward without the obligation to converse.
It takes a lot of trust to do that.
It really does. But the most powerful environment they discuss, the one that triggers the deepest neural reset, is the impact of nature.
Nature is the ultimate, unrivaled arena for solitude because it inherently demands absolutely nothing of you.
Nothing at all.
A towering forest doesn't care about your job title, the ocean doesn't care about your bank account, and a mountain range couldn't care less about your social media metrics.
It's just beautifully indifferent.
Stepping into the vast natural world entirely strips away the societal gaze. But what's really fascinating here is a specific psychological mechanism triggered by being in nature. The experience of awe.
Awe. That spine-tingling, almost breathless feeling when you look up at a canopy of ancient redwood trees or stand at the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Or stare at a night sky, utterly saturated with stars, in a place with no light pollution.
Yes, exactly. What does awe actually do to us?
The researchers note that experiencing awe physically and psychologically shrinks the human ego.
It makes you feel small.
Yes. When you are confronted with the terrifying vastness of the natural world, or the sheer scale of the cosmos, your personal problems, your financial anxieties, your insecurities, they don't disappear, but they suddenly scale down.
They shrink.
They are put into their proper minuscule perspective.
Mm.
Awe connects us to a reality exponentially larger than ourselves, grounding us fiercely in the present moment and washing away the superficial noise of modern life. It operates as the ultimate hard reset button for the human operating system.
Wow. We have covered an incredible, expansive amount of ground today, and the narrative arc of this journey is just staggering to look back on.
It's a huge transformation.
It is. We started by looking at you, the listener. If you are standing in that crowded room, feeling overwhelmed by the relentless noise, exhausted by the hustle, and feeling like a helpless victim of your circumstances, know with absolute certainty that you have the power to change the narrative.
You absolutely do.
By actively, bravely stepping away from the crowd and into the quiet, you can confront those dark, negative internal voices. You interrupt them with a countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Exactly. You rebuild your foundational pillars one single, deliberate 1% brick at a time. You adopt the unwavering, ironclad meta-belief that everything is possible and everything is learnable.
You install the new software.
And then, once your foundation is unbreakable, you step out of the quiet and apply immense leverage. You use the multipliers technology, intense focus, deployed capital, and the harmonized, aligned energy of others to scale your vision to the world.
You build the machine.
You move from being a background extra, passively swept along by the currents of society, to becoming the master architect of an extraordinary reality.
And maintaining that extraordinary reality simply requires mastering the loop.
The solar and the lunar.
Exactly. Know exactly when to harness the outward solar energy of the crowd to build and lead, and knowing exactly when to retreat to the lunar quiet of solitude to remember who you actually are.
Right.
Whether you are in solitude actively doing, strategizing, problem-solving, and planning your next move, or simply being, letting your mind wander, experiencing awe and healing, protecting that solitary space is the ultimate secret to an enduring, extraordinary life.
I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to carry with you. Take a hard look at your life right now. Look at the goals that feel utterly out of reach, the dreams you have silently categorized as impossible.
We all have them.
What if the biggest barrier between you and the impossible isn't a lack of financial resources? What if it isn't a lack of innate intelligence, or a lack of good luck, or a lack of the right social connections?
What if it's none of that?
What if the only thing standing between you and the extraordinary life you want is simply a quiet, honest conversation you have been avoiding having with yourself in an empty room?
That room and that conversation is waiting for you whenever you're ready to turn off the noise.
Thank you so much for joining us for this expansive exploration. Before you jump back into the chaos, the emails, and the relentless demands of the day, take just 5 minutes. Find a quiet spot. Force quit the background apps in your mind. Take a deep breath and just listen to the quiet. We will see you next time.